Deadly Tarantula Girl coming to you from my studio today with the Superman of Scaleless ball pythons. This is Daniel Allison, who is the owner of Constriction Addiction. How are you doing today, Daniel?
I'm doing well, doing very well.
So you are in North Carolina. Is it spring there yet?
It is. It's we're supposed to be pushing high 90s this week, so it's definitely warming up for sure.
Awesome. So I know that you're super heavy into ball pythons. Is that all you're keeping right now?
It is at the moment. When I first started out, I did a lot of different species and kind of got into the ball pythons, and that's all we currently work with now. It's all the different morphs and patterns just kind of locked us in. So I have been kind of tossed around the idea of, having a few other things. There's a lot of things out there that catch my eye that are really, really pretty that a lot of people are doing a lot of great work with. So we may pick up some different species down the road.
So what kind of things are you most interested in?
I like the magpie blood pythons.
Oh, yeah.
I've always been a part of green tree pythons. Some of the original like Maxwell calico lines, Mr. Blue, all that stuff that was around when Rico and those guys were around, that have kind of faded out throughout the years that are no longer available. I think, powdery ticks are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're just, it's hard to beat that. So just a few odds and ends, stuff like that, There's always that one animal that catches your eye at the show, that's kind of, you don't want to work with the whole line of species, but that one morph is just really incredible and you just feel like you got to have it. So, yeah.
So how do you resist the temptation to branch out when you're going to these shows and stuff and you're just seeing amazing stuff everywhere?
It's more about focus,
Yeah.
It's more about focus and space and time. And, when you start getting a large number of animals in a collection, you really have to start managing time. We also do rodents as well. So, that takes up a lot of time too.
I was going to ask you that. You seem to grow up your snakes really fast. They seem to be really, great body weights, beautiful. So I was wondering if you bred your own rodents or if you ordered them. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I started out, I built all my own rodent racks out of 1x1 steel and expanded metal. Was really going to start selling them. There wasn't many rodent racks around back then, but it just got to be too much. I got to where I was spending so much time with the rodents that I wasn't being able to spend enough time with the animals. And I was still roughly small, maybe 300 animals at the time. So I decided to do away with the rodents, and then I started buying them. Mm-hmm. And that got very, very costly. We were spending close to $1,500 a week in rodents. And so as the collection grew, I just decided to do it different. So we went back to producing rodents. And another reason was because the rodents that we were buying, I was not happy with. The fat content was not there, the muscle. A lot of rodent producers will use milled food that is not premium. And yes, the rodents do well. Yes, they reproduce. But if you're looking to get the optimum, production out of your animals, you want the healthiest rat you can put into them, the most fat content, the most protein. So that's when we started producing them for sure.
So are you still building your own racks or do you order commercial racks now?
I'm building all my own racks just because it's much easier for me that way. With a large building versus the cost of Freedom Breeder, it just doesn't make sense to me. I can, I can build, we're probably producing, I would say probably 1,000 to 1,500 a week. So it's not too, it's not too large, but it's still manageable. I still have to buy some from time to time, maybe 500 or 1,000 a month, but it's definitely helped out a lot. Something else I read into was, as hatchlings, sometimes we like to feed them twice a week.
Right.
When I placed the order, I could only get those orders one time a week.
Right.
So it limited me on how much I could feed. So that's where producing them also came in and done really well for us, where we could feed twice a week if we needed to.
So that brings me to another question. Number one, what do you feed your rodents? And number two, do you like feeding frozen or thawed to your animals? I mean, frozen, well, obviously you probably don't prefer that, but pre-killed or live is what I'm asking.
Right. So what we feed is we use the Missouri 6F. That's what Justin and a lot of the other guys are using. I was using another product with a less fat protein content. And, I just wasn't seeing when I switched to Missouri the first season, I was seeing, 2 or 3 eggs per clutch more, less slugs. Yeah. I mean, it was a major difference. So, Missouri, we stand by Missouri. It's a great product. So that's what we feed. And also, your other question was about
live or pre-killed feeding.
Live or pre-killed. So with a large collection, it is very, very time consuming just to feed. It takes a full 8-10 hour day just to feed our collection. So we feed live. It's much easier that way. We watch the animal take the rodent just to make sure that it's not biting or anything like that. We try to protect the animals as much as possible. But we don't have too many problems doing that. Pre-killed, we did that for a while, and it has its pros and cons just like anything else. So we feed live.
Yeah, I understand. So you just have an occasional nip here and there and nothing really beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, usually we don't even see the nip. I mean, we try to watch, the animal take it. Now, and a lot of that is we pre-scent the room. So we'll bring in 1,000 rats and leave them for 30 minutes. So when we open that drawer, that animal's at the front of that tub and it's ready to feed. I have seen more problems when you go drop them in without pre-scenting the room. The animal is not as responsive and sometimes less likely to take the rodent.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So we pre-scent the room. You definitely have to watch your fingers when you open the drawer.
Right.
So, especially in the fall when girls are developing follicles. So,
right.
But other than that, it's a pretty good method. Pretty good.
So, you're known for 3 things. Can you guess what those 3 things are?
I cannot.
Come on, take a shot in the back.
I would say probably Ultramel, Scaleless, and I would not know what the other one was. Probably maybe Pods. I don't know. I really don't know.
Kind of primarily working with high end, specifically Scaleless. I think that's kind of, I mean, that's how I first knew about you. And I want to thank you for your Scaleless series that you're working on. It's awesome. Super amazing. I love your transparency. I love that you're actively trying to debunk some of these myths about, how terrible the scaleless ball pythons are. And I want to get into that a little bit. But so high-end pythons, scaleless pythons specifically, your green racks. Talk about your green racks, which are really beautiful. And you're kind of hot. You sort of look like Superman.
Wow.
Wait, I was trying to make you blush there. So that was.
You got it. You got it.
All right. Okay, Superman. Tell us about your racks. I know you've told me personally, but I'm a lot of people want to know about your racks.
Okay, so the racks. I drag raced for many, many years, and we powder coated everything, or we chromed everything out on the race cars. So I had a lot of powder coaters really close, and people always complain about ARS after a few years, the powder coating chipping off, or something of that sort. And I just kind of everybody's snake room looked the same. They all had the exact same racks, and so I just kind of figured what would be different, And so we decided to take it was a leap. We wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but with the experience of powder coating, we knew how great they could look. We were worried about the inserts, whether they would be able to slide in and out, stuff like that. So we powder coated them, and it worked out. It turned out really great. It really did. So I'm happy with them. It was expensive. It wasn't cheap, but I'm really happy with them.
Now that makes them look unique, but is that going to help with their longevity? Is it easy to wipe clean? Are there other advantages to powder coating other than just having a cool looking rack?
I mean, I think so. In the wintertime, if you're not running ambient temp, if you drop your ambience really low, that metal, tends to get a little cold.
Right.
The bare stainless steel. So it does insulate it a little bit. It obviously protects it. Stainless steel will scratch, but it won't rust. We have a silver flake in those green racks that you can't really see unless you kind of come in the building. And I love it. I think it's incredible. It's really neat to see that. It kind of attaches me back to the drag racing days. But I love them. I really do. I don't know if I'll ever be able to sell them if I ever decide to sell them, but I love them. I still have a couple more to do, but we definitely. It's really cool at night when you cut all the lights off, and I've got a couple of bug zappers in there, and they glow like black lights, and the racks they just light up all the way down. It's really cool. It's really cool. I love it. So, as far as, but to answer your question, is there any real advantage to powder coating them? Not really. Not really. It's all about looks. I think even Tracy Barker has some of the original Freedom Breeders where she's had them powder coated like red, and she still has those to this day. But I think each to their own. I think everybody. I get questions and emails all the time, people asking about powder coating them, and I think everybody wants to powder coat them until they find out the price of powder coating them.
Yeah.
And then they kind of don't want to do it, but I think it's it sets things apart. So yeah.
So about how many snakes are you keeping at this time, and are you doing it full time, or are you still working outside of the home as well?
Well, we've got let's see. We downsized over the last 2 years. I would say we're about 275 adult females, probably around 75 to 90 males, breeder males. And then, given what time of season it is, how many babies we have on hand. But, at one time we did, what was it? It was 297 clutches in 2017, and it was just too much.
Oh my God.
It was way too much for me. In what we do, it's way too much. Now, as far as this is a big part of what we do. We've been in the tanning industry for 30 years. We had hair salons across the Charlotte region. We're down to one tanning salon, and I'm actually considering opening another one towards the end of this year. And we also do rental properties, a little bit in real estate as well. So as far as a day-to-day, yes, this is the day-to-day, but we have a few other avenues of income and things that help out along the way.
So at what year did you get into reptiles, and at one point did it go from being a hobby to a profession? I know that's lines kind of blurred sometimes. You can't really pinpoint a date, but approximately.
So it's been a long road. I started in 2009, I believe it was, maybe 2007. It was just like a pet thing, my girlfriend had got me into it, and we had, I bought a corn snake. I was still living at home. I was like 18 years old. Started going to finding out about all these different snakes, going around the pet stores, buying all this stuff. Heard about a reptile show, went to the reptile show, was just blown away, you know, a little Repticon in Columbia, South Carolina. And it just kind of grew from there. I was still drag racing at the time, so it wasn't an option for me to be full-time then.
Right.
And then I just, you know, I decided that I really liked working with the animals, decided to, you know, quit drag racing and kind of pursue what I wanted to do. And it took its ups and downs. We did it for probably 4 or 5 years. And then I took a break for 3 years. I took a job out of Nashville, Tennessee, traveled for 2 years, and then came back about 4 years ago. I still kept everything while I was on the road and stuff. I just didn't breed anything.
Okay.
And then so I came back about 4 years ago and just decided that it was just something that I wanted to do. So it's been, you know, it has its highs and lows. It has its advantages and disadvantages. But for the most part, I just, you know, love producing really cool stuff, one-of-a-kind stuff. So
definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about getting started in the Scaleless projects and maybe some of the pros and cons. I know he's done a series about Scaleless care, and I'll link those below. I think you've done 4 videos so far, or are you about to do a 4th?
Yes. The problem with me is time.
Yeah.
Time is a big issue for me, which is why the YouTube channel is not stronger than what it is.
Right.
It's very time consuming to do a video.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. It is so, I don't think people realize like how much goes into those videos. And so I'm doing it at a slow pace. You know, I'm not able to get them out as like some of the other guys, like Always Evolving and some of the other guys that are vloggers. But, you know, we do the best we can. I just want to put good, solid, concrete information out there. You know, stuff that can help people along the way. But I am working on another video for Scaleless as well. We have a long road with that. It's not going to be something that, it's not going to be like a ball python care sheet. I think we're going to, you know, continuously learn more and more about these animals. The Scaleless road has been a long road, probably the longest road in ball python history. It's been a journey.
So at what point did you get your first Scaleless? And I don't want to ask you like what mistakes you made, but the information just wasn't out there even just a few years ago. So what are some of the key things that you've learned that you feel are critical to their care and development?
Well, I got into the Scaleless. I was actually still on the road. I was actually working in Texas. And I heard about the Scaleless and then seen Scaleless heads at $50,000. So I bought my first one. I left the job in Texas and drove all the way to Oklahoma. I paid $50,000 for the first one, and ended up with a sum total of around $100,000 in the Scaleless project the first year. And produced my first Scaleless. I think it was 18 months after that. You know, and you're right, there was no information out there. The few people that had them would not share information. Nobody would help you, period. I just had someone call me this week and say, hey, I purchased a Scaleless from this certain breeder. As soon as I receive the animal, they will no longer respond to me. Can you help me?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, it's been a long road and the information is not out there. But I think with the rumor mill and the way the Scaleless project had its start, like me, myself, I just shut down. I didn't share anything because of all the controversy. I think a lot of people with their negativity keep things from being let out, you know. And when no one addresses them, then the rumor mill just grows and grows and grows and grows to this point where we are now. And that's what the Scaleless series is all about, is trying to straighten some of that stuff out. These animals are not as what they have been portrayed to be. I love working with mine. I had to figure everything out from start to finish on my own. Like I said, there was no information out there. And I think, probably the biggest thing with keeping scaleless ball pythons is you definitely don't want to keep them on substrate. I'm a firm believer in the Reptizorb liners. I know that there's some guys out there, Tim Bailey, I know he's keeping his on Aspen. And that may work for him tremendously. But I think, I tried Aspen. I didn't like it. I can say that, I don't think anyone has had the success with these animals that I have.
Right.
I don't think anyone is growing them like I am. So I think that if you just take care of them, they will thrive. Their skin can be tricky if you don't know what you're doing. But that's where the Scale series came in with the bag balm and, just keeping them, on paper towels or the Reptizorb liners. And mine have been fine. I mean, I have had really no issues with them once I got everything figured out. I tried the Reptichip. I tried the Aspen. I tried a lot of things with those animals.
Well, there was also some talk out there that they shouldn't be soaked, and you've pretty much disproven that, I think.
Yes, that was the most ridiculous rumor that I think I have ever heard, was that the animals could not be soaked in water. Don't soak them. And I'm like, why? I mean, that makes no sense. So that was something we just put to bed right away because we were trying to figure them out. We were having shedding problems because, like I said, when we kept them on Reptichip or any other kind of substrate, we were having problems with them, and we would put them in water. But you just have to be careful with putting them in water, because if they're not ready to shed and you put them in that water and soak them until they're pruny and you rip that skin off to where they're sticky, you're going to kill that animal. It's like ripping the epidermis layer off of your skin.
Right.
So you're going to hurt that animal if you do that. But they're not. I mean,
I think another problem that people were running into is, I think you mentioned this in one of your videos. Essentially, you pull a tub open and closed, a water dish spills, and that animal is not just lying in water for a week or two. They're lying in water and bacteria, and it grows. And I'm sure that they're very susceptible to bacterial infection and things like that because they don't have the armor coating that most snakes have of having that scalation. And so obviously not allowing them to stay in dirty substrate and soaking them briefly, 5 to maybe 10 minutes in clean water.
Right. And the difference is it's the same thing as a ball python with scales. The ball python with scales, when we see that issue, we call it scale rot.
Right.
Is what we call it, where the animal has either been burned or it has been oversaturated to the point to where the scales are rotting off. So with the scaleless ball pythons, if you're not using a freedom breeder or a ARS rack that has a water bowl deli cup holder, and that animal turns that cup over, you need to be aware of that, because if you leave that animal in that water, it's definitely going to start causing skin problems along the belly and up the side, and things of that sort. And that was another thing with soaking the scaleless. That was one of the first things I noticed about scaleless ball pythons. They will soak their self. They will hydrate their self. They will sit in a water bowl to hydrate their skin. And I think that's just the biggest thing about them, is using that bag balm, once a week or once a month, whatever they need to hydrate their skin, and just taking care of them.
Right. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you've done the legwork on that and that you're willing to share that information, because I see the scaleless market growing, and I mean they're beautiful, they're amazing, they're interesting, they're different. They look very different, and so
Yeah.
I don't see the scaleless market slowing down. I see it definitely growing and accelerating.
Absolutely. It's the color morphs and the patterns are incredible. Just the simple pastel, the cinnamon, the lemon blast, the few morphs that we have seen in Scaleless are just, they're mind blowing. I love them. Like I said, I'm going to continue to work with them. And I think it has a lot of potential. And what I noticed was, like in the beginning, instead of putting the work in and trying to figure out what, how to keep these animals, people would just hate them and just, oh, this project's dead. This is, I can't take care of this thing. Well, it's not a normal ball python. It is a ball python, but it's not, normal as in with taking the scales away. So once we figured out the husbandry and care for the animal, it's been great.
Awesome. Let's see. What was I gonna? Oh, so what all have you kept through the years? Did I already ask you that? You said you had a corn snake.
Oh yeah. We got rid of everything except for, like I still have my original pod male that I bought years and years and years ago. I still have him. But other than that, we ended up letting everything go. We had berms or ticks, bearded dragons, leopard geckos, cockseye, Asian blue beauties. I mean, bull snakes, pond snakes, gopher snakes. We had it all. I just didn't.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it just got to be too much. It was easier to focus on one species. The ball pythons were just starting to, really boom, in my opinion. But here we are. Here we are.
Well, it was obviously a good choice because you're doing very well. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm just too crazy, I guess. I can't find a way to narrow it down. And there are things that I choose not to do because I'm like, we're already going in so many different directions. But yeah, I haven't done very well to narrow it down through the years. We have some, even like in January of this year, we let a whole huge portion of our collection go because we were going to focus more on boas and stuff like that. And that's been fun. I mean, we had boas before, but I don't know. I'm pretty partial to live bearers. So I have a horrible announcement to make. Our main incubator failed. We lost pretty much our production for the whole season. So that was
wow.
a huge blow. So I was going to ask you, what do you build your own? What companies do you like? Tell us about your incubation.
I have always built my own.
Have you?
And yes, because I've just always, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I've toyed around the idea of an incubator room, but if I did, I would be afraid of the situation that you're experiencing now. If I have one incubator go down, that's only a quarter of my season. If I have the entire incubator room go down, that's my entire season.
Right.
So I build my own out of stand-up deep freezers, the old school way. I still use the original Helix thermostats. I feel like those were some of the most accurate thermostats that we've ever had on the market. And I keep it simple: 6-quart tub, vermiculite. I don't even like fans. I started playing with fans about a year ago, and it just made things worse. So,
Really? So you
yes, for
don't have
me
any
it
kind of
did.
circulation system?
I don't.
Interesting. Have
We,
you?
between checking on the eggs, they get a fresh air exchange from when we check on the eggs, or put more eggs in there, or we're pulling eggs out that are hatching.
Uh-huh.
They get their air exchange from that. Now you will get the whole reason for the fan circulation was for an even temperature range from top to bottom. The only difference in not using a fan is that at the bottom, say if you've got your probe, you have to set if you're not using a fan, you want your probe at the dead top. So heat rises, and the hottest point of that incubator is not going to go over 89, let's say 89 degrees. So what that's going to do is that's going to put the bottom around 86 degrees. Well, as you fill that incubator up, these down here are 86 degrees. So they're going to hatch, a few days later, past 60 days. But it's not that big of a deal because as you pull clutches that are hatching, you're moving those clutches from the bottom up. So the temperature's actually going up a degree, so you're really not that far off from the 60 days anyways.
Right.
So I just, when I put fans in there, I was having eggs dry out. It was drying the eggs out, and I just didn't see a need for it when you can just as efficiently. The thing is patience. People get impatient and just like cutting eggs early or, trying to rush an incubation period. Just be patient. I mean, like I said, it's all each to their own. Everyone has their own incubation method. People use light diffusers. You just have to figure out what works for you. And I found a very simple method that works for me, and I've stuck with it for years. And I'm hatching them. I don't see a reason to fix it. I don't see a reason to change what is already working for me. So
do you use Perlite?
I do not. I don't think I've ever even mixed a batch of Perlite up.
Really?
Ever.
So what do you use to keep it humid in there?
Vermiculite.
Oh, okay. You do use vermiculite. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, we've built our own for a lot of years. We had one. This was an older one. Well, we had just replaced the thermostat. We had it going for a month. We had tested it, and we had some stuff in there, and it wasn't looking quite right. And so we temp gunned it, and it was over 100. And we turned it down, and it got even hotter. And so, luckily, most of my retic eggs were in a different incubator, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely trial and error.
It is.
Well, there's no set recipe for incubation. It's all trial and error, and when you figure out what works for you, you just stick with it and keep doing what works for you.
Right.
What works for me may not work for you, or may not work with anyone else. It's just what you. Yeah.
Well, and I think obviously, as far as like a lot of things, incubation temperatures, brands, racks, substrate, all that can vary a lot based on where you live and what the climate is like there. So, I think that people need to take that into consideration when they're learning from other people that aren't, right now we're learning from people on YouTube and things like that, people that are nowhere near you. And so people need to keep that in mind.
Right. Just like everyone's snake room is different. Like
exactly.
Someone up north is not going to have the same success with the same method as someone in Florida because the humidity is different, the temperature ranges are different, the seasons are different. You've got to figure out what works for you. And that's the key to being a successful breeder, because you're not just going to have one good season. You've got to be able to produce year after year.
Right.
So once you figure out.
Go ahead.
Oh, I say once you figure out what works for you, that's half the battle.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I was wondering if your office and your reptile room and all that, is that on your personal property, or do you have like an office and another building in another location?
So here's how I did it. Okay. I had some commercial space in town, and my family had like I said, we did rental properties. They had a property that they were having trouble with the renters. And I said, well, it was half the price of what I was paying commercial space in town. So what I decided to do was rent the property, rent the house, and move the snakes in there. And so they've been in a rental property for, I would say, probably 8 years now. So you go into this like residential neighborhood and it looks like a normal house on the outside, and you go inside. We gutted the bathrooms and put big sinks in there, and I mean it is a facility. But I use the business to pay the note on the house, and I always said if I ever decided to get out of the snake business, if it didn't work out, and if we weren't sitting here today, I would have a piece of property that I could rent out.
Right.
So. I ended up purchasing the house from family, and here we are.
Well, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it worked out great. Very unique. Most people build standalone facilities and things like that. I had a power company worker come out here the other day, and I had they were laying fiber down the road, and the doors were open, and he walks up and he just glances and he's like, "Oh my God." It was the funniest thing ever. It was great.
Have trouble with anyone in the neighborhood not liking reptiles being, I mean, you guys don't do venomous or anything, but still people get scared.
Well, my neighbors, one is a retired lieutenant for the county, and he knows about it. Also, the neighbors on the street, like they know what I do. And a lot of them come in like they love it. And I actually had an employee one time that was posting on social media. I didn't know at the time, but she was on probation, and she was posting on social media all these snakes and stuff and tagging the company in it and stuff like that. And so I had to go out and go to lunch one day, and there's like 4 animal control, 9 county officers like blocking the cul-de-sac off, and I'm like, oh, here we go. So they come in and took pictures of everything. They're like, wow, this is incredible. They're playing with the snakes, and they ended up selling one of the officers a snake, and they loved it. And they're like, we're gonna take pictures in case we get any more calls. I thought they were gonna just crucify me for running a business like in a residential neighborhood, but they didn't even care.
Yeah.
They're just like, you're good.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I thought I was going to have to move everything out. I was like, oh my God, here we go. So it turned out really well.
Good. It's always good to have those guys on your side.
Yep.
So I wanted to compliment you on your logo and all your graphics on your channel. I think it's really beautiful, the colors and just the artwork and everything. Do you have a specific designer that does all that? Because it's really nice.
Just me.
You do all that?
I do.
Wow.
Yep.
So you're an artist, you're a race car driver, wow. What do you not do?
Well, I really don't know. There's I do a lot of things, that's for sure. I've been involved in a lot of things in my life. I raced motocross, drag race, martial arts. I did that for 6 years. I mean, I've been through a lot of things in my life, and this is the only thing I've kind of really stuck with for a long period of time. So it's been fun. It's not, this takes a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work. It's not something you can develop overnight. So I think that's why I stuck with it the most, just because it is so hard to get to this point, and all the work and time and long hours that goes into this. It's a long road.
It is
a really long road. So
I mean, it takes dedication to literally grow an animal business, especially one that's reputable. You've got clean animals, beautiful animals, high-end stuff, all high quality. So tell us a little bit about your regimes for mite control, because I know you're a little bit particular about it.
Yes. Honestly, I run a very, very closed collection, a very tight collection. I don't let anything in, and very few goes, if it goes out, it's gone.
Okay.
I don't, I very rarely allow people in the facility. But I use the screwworm spray that Mr. Kabelka turned me on to, and I use that for preventative. And then, I'm very picky about clean cages and, just everything, the racks being wiped down, floors being mopped. I'm very, 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 I like my stuff clean. I want it clean. So, that's, if you keep a clean collection, I only buy animals from certain individuals, certain breeders, because I want a clean quality collection. It's too risky to bring a what if into the collection. And I want the highest quality animal possible. I want the highest quality rodent I can put into the animal. The food, everything, every component.
So I've seen a video where actually prepping your reptichip, where you spray out a tub. So you soak the reptichip, you spray out a tub, you put the chip in there, you spray all the chip, at least the top layers, close the
Right.
lid, shake it all up.
Right.
So you do that before that even ever enters your room, right? Every
Right.
time.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that screwworm spray is very, very strong.
Uh-huh.
And so if you get to going through and you're cleaning cages and you're spraying every tub, it fumigates the room. And I just don't want to be breathing that. I don't want my employees breathing that.
Right.
So we do it outside. We treat the substrate outside, and then we bring it in and put it in the enclosure.
So obviously it's, good to take preventative measures. That's a lot easier than then having to knock back a mite collection, a mite infestation, and, kind of constantly being paranoid that are they going to crop back up again, because you can wipe them out. And then once their life cycle starts again, you can get another infestation. So I know that you treat your reptichip. Is there any other measures that you take, any other preventative measures?
No, I mean,
Well, other
I,
than the animals that you specifically purchase, knowing where they're coming from and that they're clean, because that's important.
yeah, I mean, that's it. The biggest thing I think is keeping a clean collection, not letting sheds and urates and stuff like that back up. I think you definitely have to stay on top of your collection, and you shouldn't have any problems unless you bring animals in from outside that, um, you know, have been exposed to mites, or if someone leaves a Repticon and they come to your facility and they've been holding snakes with mites all day,
Yeah.
they come in, they're going to transfer. But if as long as you keep, my employees have nothing to do with reptiles, period. They don't own reptiles. They don't keep reptiles for that reason. Like
Really?
for that reason, they're not allowed to have a collection. They're not allowed to have any kind of animals whatsoever, because they're not bringing in and contaminating anything into my collection.
Interesting.
Not
I never even
to,
thought about that. I mean,
yeah.
I've thought about that contamination, but essentially having that as a rule for your employees.
Well, and also with an employee that has a collection, when they come in and they want to work for you, they want to do it their way.
That's
Okay,
true.
their way that they clean cages at their facility is not the way that I want my cages cleaned. So when you get someone that is green, you can train them from the ground up and show them exactly how you want it done, versus them cutting corners and saying, "Well, I do it with my collection this way."
Right.
It causes a conflict of interest.
That's it. Everybody at my place is fired. Starting over.
And also, you don't have to worry as much about, animals getting gone or something being stolen or something of that matter. So it has a lot of safety net with it.
Hmm. Interesting.
It
So,
takes more time. It definitely takes more time to train, and hire and stuff like that. But it's much, much, if you get a good one, it'll pay off in the long run if you get a good employee. Did I lose you? You still there? I might have lost you. All right, I got you back now.
Oh, can you see me? Okay, perfect.
I got you back now. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everybody. Good thing he handled it for a second there. So I was trying to ask you what your position is on the spider gene.
Okay, so spider gene. So, all right. So I was going to do a YouTube video on this and I didn't do it. So spiders were obviously originally one of the first morphs out, and they made a lot of really cool combinations. First of all, I think that this is America, and I think that people should be able to do what they want to do. If it is your prerogative to breed spider ball pythons and you have a customer base for spider ball pythons, then by all means knock yourself out. Breed all the spider ball pythons you want to. Now, my personal take on it, I do not breed spider ball pythons. Why do I not breed spider ball pythons? So I have produced quite a few, and my thing was always the wobble. And I would have them here. They would hatch perfect. They would feed perfect. They would be great, amazing animals. I ship them to the customer. The customer puts them in a 10-gallon aquarium or whatever they're going to put them in. And they send me a video 3 days later, and the animal's just cutting back flips. And, you know, they're unhappy because this animal's now stressed out and it's not acting right. So with the spider ball python, clearly it's a neurological issue. But when that animal goes through a certain amount of stress, it starts that wobble, and once that switch is flipped, it's not coming back. It'll wobble the rest of its life. So whether that stress is associated with shipping or traveling to shows or whatever it is, you know, but they never come back once they start that wobble. And you know, I choose not to because I don't want unhappy customers. I don't want customers to have an animal that is cutting backflips in the aquarium and, you know, has no motor skills. You know, I know a lot of people love their spider ball pythons. Kevin McCurley, for instance, he loves his spider ball pythons. And I don't think that, you know, someone should take away Kevin's spider ball pythons that he's built his company on for 20 years or 15 years, you know, because of this issue. I think if he wants to work with them, then allow him to work with them. Obviously, it is a neurological issue, but I think everyone should have the right to make their own choice whether they work with them or not. I don't think that anyone should come down. You know, it's almost like when we go to Daytona or and U.S. Fish and Wildlife comes in and they say, hey, you've got to take that two-hooded king snake off your table because you're exploiting a deficient animal for the price of admission. Is that the same case with spider ball pythons? I don't know. That's something that's going to have to be, there's a line that's going to have to be drawn there. My choice is not to breed them. I don't breed spider ball pythons. That's just my personal opinion. I don't want to work with them. I don't want unhappy customers. And I think there is all these morphs that are out there on the market that we can work with. And there's millions of different combinations that we have yet to see. I don't feel the need to work with an animal that, one, has been on the market already for 15 years, and two, that does have neurological problems and the potential for an unhappy customer. There's too much time and work and effort going into breeding these animals to produce a product that the customer is going to be unhappy with. Same reason I don't work with caramel albinos. Can you produce caramel albinos that are not kinked, that are incredible, that make beautiful combos? Absolutely. But I chose not to work with them because of that issue. I'm not going to work for 4 years to produce an animal and hope a 50-50 shot that it's not kinked up. So I went with Ultramel instead. But does that mean that, you know, someone else should not be allowed to work with caramel albinos because of that deficiency? That's not for me to debate. I make my choice whether I choose to work with those animals, and my choice is no. I choose not to work with those animals. Do I think it's right to tell someone they cannot work with those animals? That's up for, that's litigation, and that's a something that is not of my concern at this point. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that everyone should be able to have the right to make their own choice. If you have a amazing customer base for spider ball pythons and you love working with them, then by all means, you know. I think there is some animals that should probably be put down because of their neurological issues and their motor skills. But then there are those spider ball pythons that live happy, healthy lives and never wobble a day in their life. So do we punish all the spider ball pythons for a few that are neurologically damned? I don't know. That's a slippery slope on either side. And I just take the neutral path with that and choose not to work with them.
Yeah.
So it's, I get that all the time on scaleless ball pythons.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that because there are a lot of people who feel like they're an abomination. We shouldn't be having them. We shouldn't be breeding them. Maybe they should be euthanized, all this stuff. And really, in my experience, I haven't had many problems with spiders. I've had a lot of spider combinations through the years, and most of them are perfectly normal. I understand people's concern, but I too believe that we should have the freedom to work with them if we choose. I've never seen a spider ball python that looked like it was in pain or that couldn't feed or that, I mean, I feel like that animal had a reasonable quality of life as far as a sneaky captivity. I don't feel like it wasn't starving to death. It wasn't,
right.
Its life was the best it could be as far as it knew. And that we should have the freedom to do that. Now, I don't think that people should have their right to do things that hurt animals, but I don't think that any spider ball pythons are necessarily being hurt. There are a few extreme cases, like, I've heard of, I've never even seen one, of animals that, have difficulty rolling over. It's not that they can't roll over. It might take an extra minute, but I don't know.
Right. I completely agree with that. I mean, and like I said, as far as the scales goes, people have always been afraid of change. Okay. Something says the scaleless ball python is so drastic and so out of this world that people can't fathom the idea of this animal being healthy and alive. This is a designer mutation. This is not something that lives in the wild. It is a designer mutation. It is for the breeder, hobbyist, and collector. And, everything was an abomination at one point in life. Tattoos were an abomination. Piercings were an abomination. The Prius was an abomination at one point. I mean, now it's an accepted thing. So, I mean, it's tattoos are now accepted. I mean, I went to the doctor's office the other day and the receptionist has a full sleeve, and years ago that would never have been acceptable,
Right.
It's just people are afraid of change, and it's took us this long to get to this point with scaleless ball pythons. I mean, I have screenshots of people 3 years ago in 2015 after Daytona that were just slaughtering scaleless ball pythons. And I have screenshots of them today that are now owning scaleless heads and all about the project and how they cannot wait to produce scaleless ball pythons.
Right.
That's how quickly things change. And, that's why I am very quiet about a lot of things. That's why I'm just now speaking out about the Scaleless project, because I don't like to get into those debates.
Right.
I work with my animals, I work with my customers, and I work with them one-on-one, and I leave it at that. Everyone has an opinion, but there are those people in Facebook groups or on Facebook or anywhere out there, forums that used to be King Snake forums,
Right.
that are going to attack and be negative about any project. It doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But Scaleless having the potential that it had and being so out of this world, it seemed to take the blunt of the hit from everything, you know.
Well, like you said, it's so dramatically different. I think that it just basically frightened people.
Absolutely. It definitely scared people. Also, the price tag. What I've noticed throughout the years is anything, the bigger the price tag, the more controversy surrounds it, the more people try to drag it down. People play games where, you know, they're advertising prices for animals that they don't even have, you know, trying to lower the price of the animal, whether they can afford it or not, trying to bring that price tag down. So it's definitely a very controversial subject that I've chose to not speak out about over the last couple of years. But I think it's time that you know, we start shedding some light on this project and where it's headed.
Well, and honestly, when you're at the forefront of something new and you have something cutting edge, a lot of the people saying negative things about it are the people who are just filled with envy and dislike that you were, you know, able to get into the jockey into that position ahead of them. And so instead of supporting and praising and congratulating who it is that's at the front of the market, they really want to tear those people down or those animals down. And that's sadly, that's just human nature.
Correct. Like I said, it's been a handful. It really has, but I think we're on the climb with it now. I think people are really starting to see them. I don't think the Scaleless project saw the true potential that it could have been, but I think we're on the right path now, and I think people are really. I mean, they're just so cool. Like, regardless of their breeding potential, their investment potential, like they are so cool, and you just can't explain like how they feel like in your hands. Like, I mean, they look cool in pictures, and they look cool, you know, when you see them at shows. But until you hold one, like it's really neat. It gets you just like that. It's like seeing your first piebald all over again. But they definitely have a bright future. I believe so.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've got, I wanted to just say hello to a couple people that are here watching. Tarantula Time, Luis Dominguez, Tavian's World of Reptiles, The Mexican, Jack Frost, Typo Haven. Quite a few people on here, and I love it when you guys are chiming in. When I was asking what you can't do, somebody chimed in and said, yeah, but can he breed tarantulas? So I thought that was pretty funny. Maybe not, but yes, I'm sure that he could do it if he tried. Let's see, we've got who else? A couple more people. Matt Stanton, Dank Tanks, Richard Hamorsky. Gotta Love Carpet Pythons was on here, and so they're all chiming in and asking some questions and kind of visiting with each other. And so thank you guys that are on the chat. So being in North Carolina, you're in a beautiful place. Are you interested in the natural herbs there, and do you ever go out field hunting?
I did that when I first started. We have a really good population of canebrake rattlesnakes out in Kings Mountain. We used to road cruise for those. We did some field herping out in Hyde County, also McBee, South Carolina, with some guys, Jamie Sargent and Michael Joel, some of those guys back in the day. I have not done any field herping. I run across herps all the time, like whether it's on my kayak or, you know, out somewhere. And when we pick them up, mostly garter snakes or black snakes or water snakes. Right here on the river, we have Lake Wiley, Lake Norman, South Fork, Catawba River. I mean, we find water snakes everywhere. But as far as field herping, no, I just don't have the time. I have no time whatsoever. Yeah, we stay wide open here. It's very busy.
I totally hear that. So is your formal education in biology or any science field, or was this just something that you had an interest in and then you grew into a business?
It's just something I had an interest in and grew into a business. You know, I've always excelled quickly through everything I've ever done, and I get bored very easy. Um, so when I say I've done a lot of things in my life, it's just where I get into something and I'm wide open until I get to where I want to be, and then I get bored, and then I just kind of move on to something else.
Interesting.
But yeah, so that's why I've been through so many things, and so with this, there's always something to do. There's always something new to create. There's always something new to do, and I think that's why I've stuck with this as long as I have. Um, like I said, it's there's never it gets boring at times when you're waiting on hatching season, or like right now we're in a lull this time of year with waiting on babies to hatch and stuff like that. But it always kicks up in the fall, and it's definitely worth it.
So what's your favorite thing about being a ball python breeder?
Um, creating something new. Creating something new that the world has never seen, that nobody else has ever seen. Um, I think that's probably the most rewarding thing for me. Above all else, above the money, above a brand, a logo, a name, anything like that. I think it's just creating that one of a kind thing that nobody's ever seen. Um, I think that does it for me.
Well, I just think that working with animals, I mean, they're constantly growing, changing, once you get to a certain point, reproducing. And with ball pythons, reproducing brand new things, that's just so awesome. I mean, I think that the ball python is the most visually diverse animal in the world. And I mean, that's just, if you think about, the thousands and thousands of morphs and the fact that they're all the same species of animal, I don't know. I mean, it's really incredible. And like you said, designing new stuff and coming up with new things. How could anyone ever get bored? It's too amazing. It's too
Right.
incredible.
Right. You just never know what's coming out of that egg. And that's one of my favorite things is lining genes up and, looking at that outcome. And that's part of being a designer. There's certain breeders out there that are designers, and there are certain breeders that are just breeders. And then there's, your hobbyists and different levels. But to be a designer, you've got to be able to know what those genes do and how they line up. And even, some of the best designers in this business, we still call each other and we're like, what is this going to look like? Why can we not put this together? Like, I can't picture what this is going to look like. And that's what makes it exciting, when you go that far and you put all that time in to make things work, and it comes out incredible. Because for every incredible mutation that you see out there, there was 10 behind it that didn't work out.
That's true.
That just wasn't incredible. The combination didn't come out the way we wanted it to. I see a lot of people right now. Everybody's throwing gum at the wall and hoping that something sticks. And what I mean by that is everyone is taking every mutation on the market and they're just throwing stuff together, just waiting and hoping for something to come out. Nobody's actually really planning and mapping out what they want to do. And like I said, I just see a lot of people just recently in the last 2 years just start just throwing random stuff together, whether it looks good or not. And that's not the way to do things. So just my opinion. Just my opinion.
So, yeah, I wouldn't say everyone's doing that, but a lot of people definitely are. I feel like a lot of people get into animals. Maybe they wander into an expo, they see all these high dollar animals, and they think, "Oh, this is easy. These animals are going to reproduce. I'm going to get rich. It's going to be, a get rich quick scheme." And obviously, that's not the case. It takes so much work, so much dedication, days when you feel like you're banging your head against the wall. And, then other days when you sit back and go, wow, this is an incredible life. I don't know, it's really neat. But working with animals is definitely not a get rich scheme because, number one, the capital that you have to invest to do it well you know, it's substantial. I wouldn't say it's as phenomenal as maybe building a hotel or something, because you can start small, with just a few animals in a bedroom in a rack or in enclosures, and then grow as your animals make money, reinvest back into your collection. But it is, you know, I mean, they're money eating machines, and if you want to do it right, where you have healthy animals and you're planning properly and keeping things clean, and you know, all the things that you do, it costs a lot of money in labor, you know, in finances. It's not as simple as someone might assume. And so, although I don't want to discourage anyone if they're considering getting into it, just know if you're not in it for the long haul, I
Yeah.
would I wouldn't want to discourage someone from keeping snakes as pets, but I don't know, unless maybe you have a ton of capital to start with, it'd probably be easier to kind of jump into the top. But I was wondering who your mentors were in the beginning, and who you consider to be um, basically the most. Who do you look up to the most in the ball python or the reptile business?
You know, when I first got started, I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't have a lot of capital. I just knew that this was really cool, and this was something that I wanted to do for a long time. I just remember I bought some of my first ball pythons from Eugene Bassett, who gave me some of the great advice. He gave me very little advice, but what he gave me was great, and it stuck with me forever. And one is, you know, is don't quit. The day you quit is the day you lose. All that time, money, effort, everything you've done over those years, um, you know, you're going to lose the day you get out. So don't quit. And also, um, you're always one clutch away from hitting it big. So never get discouraged. And what he means by that was, it's like a carrot and a stick. You know, you're always looking at that future. And whether you get bad odds or, you know, your incubator crashes, not to bring that up, but if
Yep.
your incubator crashes, you know, that's a major blow, you know, and you can't let that discourage you, and you can't let that stop you, because you never know, that first clutch you hit next year may be, you know, something that the world has never seen before. You know,
That's
you
true.
just never know. You never know what's coming out of those eggs. Um, you know, looking up, you know, that's a slippery slope, because, you know, throughout the years, people that I thought were good people turned out to be the worst in the business.
Hmm.
People that I had looked up to, some of the bigger names, were not who I thought they were. Um, you know, today, I can't really say I look up to anybody today. And that may be horrible to say that. Um, I can tell you probably the most honest person I've ever met would be Justin. And I think that's part of his success is that, and his able to do the things that he does. He's one of the most honest people I've ever met, in this business, along with, you know, a lot of the big names are gone. I know one of the original pioneers, probably one of the biggest names that hit this industry. I know they sold their collection last week and are no longer doing ball pythons. Names that we used to hear, big names that were big names 8 years ago, are no longer big names anymore.
Right.
I think we've seen the first turnover in the business, and I think a lot of new guys are coming in, and I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of room for people to make something out of themselves. You know, years ago, you had all the names, you know, and to this day, I would say 75% of those names are gone. So as far as, you know, people to look up to, I guess I've been doing it a long time, so I've seen a lot of things. Um, I can't really say I really look up to anybody that much anymore. I have a lot of respect for Justin for what he has done. I think Barcheck brought a lot of people into this industry through YouTube. Like Miguel and opening up our market to a broader spectrum. I think John Lehman did a great job with Morph Market.
Oh,
I
yes.
think we needed that. I think we needed that more than anything. I think there's, everybody's doing their part. I don't think there's one guy up on the hill that's king. I think everybody's doing their part. I think we're building a great industry and a great foundation for everyone.
So I'm dying to know who you're referring to, who sold out their collection last week. Is it a secret?
Oh, well, I guess it don't matter. I have not got confirmation, but I heard this is a rumor mill thing. I heard through the grapevine that Peter Call, the founder of Pod Ball Pythons, is no longer has any ball pythons. The entire collection was sold.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so that is very, and the thing is, like, you walk into a show today and 90% of the people in the show have no idea who Peter Call is or Ralph Davis or like they have no idea who these guys are. I like I said, I heard through the grapevine that that Peter has sold all his pieds, that he has sold his entire collection. Now, if that is not true, Peter, I apologize. That's just part of the rumor mill of what I've heard. I've heard a lot of controversy about that, but like I said, to this day, you walk into a show, 90% of the people in the show have no idea who Peter Call is. But they know what a pied ball python is.
Right.
Of
course.
The turnover has been tremendous. Brian's no longer breeding snakes. He's doing YouTube. There's a huge turnover. Ralph's not doing anything. I haven't heard from Ralph.
Pythons.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Ralph in years. Sean Bradley's out. I mean, all these names that we grew up on 10 years ago are no longer around. And we're seeing I think the first turnover in the reptile industry. That's just my opinion. I'm sure somebody will be upset about that, but that's just my opinion, So, but yeah, I was told that Peter Call sold his. I heard he still has his boas. Now I don't know if he plans to sell the boas, but I heard that he sold the entire ball python collection, is what I was told. So that's yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah, and I've seen it's been slowly changing throughout the years. Just look at Daytona. I mean, you go to Daytona in 2009, and it was the Chondro Coalition and TSK, and Dave and Tracy, and Dave and Tracy's another prime example. I just saw them in Arlington in February, and I think Tracy is, I think that they're looking into retirement and things like that. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they're looking into retirement and stuff like that. It's just a different time,
Well, I know because I was actually contacted by somebody in Florida just this week about the new yellow anaconda ban, and they were asking me what I can do, which I am working on all that stuff. But I know that the barkers have chosen to take a step back from fighting all the legislature, and I do not fault them in any way. Basically, they are ready to pass the torch. And if they don't step back, no one else is going to step up. And so, we need to. I mean, obviously, USARC is a major powerhouse, but they need the individuals who have the credentials behind their name, who have the knowledge, who have the experience, who are going to be the ones to travel and write these petitions and rally people. And the barkers. I mean, I don't know whether or not they're still writing. I have their newest book. They're so amazing. They've done so much. But, you know, there comes a point when you have to, you know, kind of let someone else take over.
Right.
And
that's, yeah. I'm sorry,
yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, there was a group that came up in the 60s, 70s, and then into the 80s that were a lot of the original importers and even slash smugglers, which I hate to say that. They'll say it themselves. The laws were very kind of vague. So at times they did things recklessly or without any concern of the law. Not all of them, but you know, I mean, well, you probably know who they are, but you know, a lot of those people have since either passed away or are no longer active in the community. Then there's been other groups of people that have come up since then, and a lot of those people are now out. I mean, Sean Bradley is still in his 30s, and he's done so much, and he's just decided to move on to aquatics, which I don't blame him. I mean, he did amazing things. He made his mark. Um, yeah, so somebody, Terry Davis is on here commenting, only us old folks remember Brian Sharp's calls, Barker's, Clark's, etc. So
Brian, yes. Brian Sharp's another prime example, you know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There are so many people. Adam Wysocki from 8 Ball Ball Pythons, you know, he was the first one to go, but, you know, I don't know how many people actually remember him, but.
right, I'm actually going to be interviewing him soon.
Who, Adam Wysocki from 8 Ball?
Brian Sharp.
Oh, Brian Sharp. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You know, like I said, it's definitely, we're definitely seeing the first turnover. And when you think about all the big names that was in this industry and you see how many of them, you know, have passed the torch, there's a lot of room in this industry for somebody to step up.
Right.
A lot of room. So I think people need to be aware of that and, you know, start looking and planning towards their future.
Right. Well, one of the goals, I have a lot of my interviews are dedicated to kind of a lot of the founders. So that's Bob Clark, I've interviewed several times. Earl Turner, I don't know if you have any idea who that is. Barney Tomberlin, Tom Crutchfield, all those types of guys that Lawrence Curtis and, you know, some of these original guys that were bringing animals in that, you know, we wouldn't have, you know, the geckos and the chameleons and the snakes in captivity that we have if they hadn't been bringing them in at that time. And so I think that the younger generation and or newer hobbyists really should invest a little bit of time and energy in kind of learning the history, because they just, all they know is that they can walk into Petco and buy a veiled chameleon or go to these expos and see these, you know, amazing shows. They can go to a Repticon, they can go to an NARBC and see things from all over the world. And, you know, that's only been the case in the relative recent years. I've only been in the exotic animal world since the 90s, and things have changed a lot in that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a different it's definitely a different market. You know, social media didn't exist back then. You pretty much you produced the animal and you took it to a show. You know, that was it. You didn't have to build a brand logo. You know, it's definitely a different day and time. So
I think
for sure.
I think it's good overall, though. Technology has brought progress, and I feel like overall it's doing a lot to. We're obviously able to educate, spread information, spread love, and unite the community. You know, there are a couple bad apples out there, but overall, I love the community and just how close that we can be all across the world through technology. I think it's incredible.
I could not agree more. So something else I wanted to address, this Facebook ban. Okay?
Oh gosh, yeah.
This Facebook ban on banning animal sales. Everybody's ranting and raving, and this goes back to what I was talking about. A few years ago, everyone was ranting and raving about these Facebook auction pages. Now we're ranting and raving because Facebook's taken away the auction pages. All Facebook did was stabilize your market. Now, if they're going to undercut you, you have to go to Morph Market. They're going to have to pay a fee to undercut you. Okay. Also, it separates the hobbyist. It separates the hobbyist from the breeder. The guys that did it right and took the time to build a logo and a brand and a name and actually build something for themselves are now not getting, it's not so much as a black market anymore. In other words, it brought more stability to the market by doing away with these auction pages. And, now people are asking for auction pages on Morph Market. And I honestly, personally think that is the worst thing that John Lehman could ever do.
Yeah.
Is basically put auction pages on Morph Market, because all you're doing is you're hurting your subscribers and customers that are paying you for subscriptions to Morph Market anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope that John doesn't go forward with that, putting auction pages on Morph Market. I think that'd just be ludicrous, honestly. But I think that people don't really, and most of the people complaining are people that don't understand real value or the business, side of things. I think we're becoming more commercialized. I think we're becoming more of a real to date market than what we're used to. When I started this, reptiles were the second largest black market in the United States next to drugs. And now it is being commercialized and on a forefront to where we have an actual legit market. And I think that's probably one of the best things for reptiles that we have seen since the beginning of reptiles. So I think that, I think things like the reptile ring, we have no control over that. But I think Facebook banning animal sales is a huge, huge win for the reptile industry. There's nobody saying you can't post a picture of your animal. And there's a difference in marketing and advertising. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Right. Promoting your company and promoting your collection is different than trying to sell animals out of your collection.
Right.
So I personally think it's a great thing that Facebook is banning animal sales. Personally.
Interesting.
I know a lot of people will not agree with that, but
I think it's interesting to hear that perspective, though, because there are all different perspectives, and it's true that Facebook did bring a lot of instability to the market. So removing that, and it does, like you said, just takes out the little guy that has a couple animals that are wanting to undermine the breeders that have, all these expenses and all these things. So
it doesn't necessarily take them out of the market. It just stops the silly ads on Facebook, like, hey, I got $300 and I want to buy a clown. What do you have? And then everybody's like, throwing themselves out there. There's all these, 900 comments of, oh, this is for sale. This is for sale. And it doesn't take the small guy out. The small guy can still use Facebook and Instagram to build himself just like the rest of us has. It's not saying that you can't build your name in your company. It's just saying that you can't put that animal up for sale or put it on this auction page where it goes for 25% of retail.
Right.
So it's not, it's not taking the little guy out of the equation at all.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but I'm glad you did. I don't want to keep you on here all night. So I was like, I don't know how much time I have left. I want to.
Oh, I'm good.
Well, so
I'm good.
here's what I wanted to ask you next. Where do you see the future of ball pythons in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think ball pythons is probably one of the most potential, has the most potential of any market out there right now for any entrepreneur. Why did people get into reptiles? People got into reptiles because they were so out of this world. You know, the only time you saw reptiles was at the zoo. Nobody could even imagine having a ball python or a skink or you know, a monitor or something like that in their living room. Okay. Now, we are using social media and YouTube to expose our market and what we do to the rest of the United States. You
Right.
know, tattoos were not accepted. Okay. So it was not very lucrative to be a tattoo artist 20 years ago when they weren't accepted and they were frowned upon. Okay. Now, today, I know tattoo artists that make $10,000 a week. Okay. Because now they're accepted and everybody wants them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that reptiles are on the rise in a big way and opening up to everyone in the United States and the rest of the world. Um, I have seen a stronger market today than I have in the last 13 years of this business. Uh, it is attributed to YouTube and social media, Instagram, Facebook. We have broadened our market and our horizon, and I think the potential for ball pythons is endless. Now, do I think that we're going to have the $25,000 and $50,000 ball pythons? Not unless we come up with one that's red, blue, or green. You know, and if we don't find a red, blue, or green ball python, then no, we're not. You know, we've seen the albino black ball that was, you know, almost solid red, but you know the point of that is I don't think we need $25,000 and $50,000 ball pythons anymore. I don't think that's where our consumer base is. I think our consumer base is, you know, from $250 up to $10,000, and I think it's, you know, you're going to have to create something now. You're going to have to create a brand, a logo, and you're going to have to create incredible animals. You know, you're going to have to market yourself really well. And I think if you do all those things, I think you could have the potential for more success in this business than any other entrepreneurship that you may go into. Because you've got to think, you know, you got to think there's millions of people sitting around out there looking for the next big thing. You know, I just think that we have, as reptile breeders, we have all the potential in the world, and the only thing that's holding us back is ourselves.
Right.
I think so, and I'm guilty of that as just as much as anybody, because I don't, like I said, I struggle with my YouTube channel. You know, that's not marketing, that's not pushing my company. You know, because I have such a workload. I wish I would have started back when Justin started his. He went back when he started his YouTube channel. You know, things would be a lot different. But you can't. You know, that's where the new guy has the advantage, because the new guy can come in like Miguel, and he can start from the beginning and show how he grew into what he is down the road.
Right.
You know, I can't do that. I can't go back and say, hey, this is how I started, and here's all the stuff I learned along the way. You know, I can't do that. So that's a huge advantage for somebody new coming into the business. But I think the reptile market in general, not just ball pythons, the reptile market in general, I think has the most potential over any other market out there. Now, that's just my opinion.
So there's a viewer on here. So there's a guy named Terry Davis. He's talking about how the internet has changed so much. He remembers the day of paper price lists and calling people back from Reptiles magazine ads, which I remember that with tarantulas and with reptiles. And talking about, somebody said, Jack Frost said, I don't think the reptile world has hit its boom yet, but it can. I agree that may be very possible. So let's see. Oh, Reggie's Urban Jungle wants to ask you when we can see a scaleless ultramouth.
Soon, very soon,
Oh, that's exciting.
very
Hear that?
soon.
So that's really cool. Wow, are you really working on that right now?
Yeah, there's not much with Scaleless I'm not working on.
Wow.
It's you know, I've been very quiet about, you know, the whole project, but I have been making my hats and shelving things, and we're getting ready to see a lot from the Scales project, and that's why I think it's time to really start. You know, when a project's new, um, you have to put the legwork in. You know, you have to make those double heads, and you have to make those visuals, and you know, learn about the animal and the morph and the mutation. And you know, we're right on the cusp of things really starting to hit some really cool mutations with Scaleless ball python. So I think it's time to really speak out about them and start getting some stuff out there for sure.
Awesome. Well, of course, people can refer to your scaleless videos when they start buying all those beautiful babies. So I was going to ask you what you feel are keys to success for being a well-known reptile breeder. So you were talking about YouTube and social media. How
YouTube is
critical do you think those are?
extremely critical. Social is king. Social media is king. It is the absolute utmost important part of your business. Now, the thing about this business and being successful in this business is you have to have the whole package. You have to be able to design, you have to be able to produce, you have to be able to market, you have to have the whole package. This is a very tough business to make it in for that reason. But social is king. You know, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not so active on Twitter. I mean, I didn't even have an Instagram account. And like I said, I suffered with this. CA would be much bigger had I done this years and years ago. But, you know, I didn't even have an Instagram account until like 18 months ago. I just got an Instagram account about 18 months ago. We just hit 10,000 subscribers, but everyone's like, hey, you know, I can't believe this guy's only got 10,000 subscribers. But you know, that's me slacking. And you know, when I got into this, I didn't focus a lot on the business side of things because I was young. You know, I didn't really, you know, I knew about business from my father and you know, his businesses that he ran. But when I got into the animals, to me, it was all about the animals. It was all about the production and learning about the genetics and everything. So I dove into that for years. And, you know, just recently, about 2.5 years ago, Justin actually really started helping me with the marketing side of things. And, you know, it's took off from there. But I think you really, you know, in the sea of Facebook posts and Instagram posts, and you've got to market yourself. You have to be different. You can't follow what I'm doing or Justin's doing or Miguel's doing. You have to be, or Cusco or any of those guys. Like, you have to be different, and you got to figure out how to be different. And you know, Justin said it best. You got to follow your own road. You got to take your own path, take it where it leads you, and just do the best you can. And if you know, if this is what you're cut out for, you'll find a way.
Right.
You'll find a way to make it work. You'll figure it out and get it done. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but the first, when I first made my big investment in ball pythons, I invested $17,000 into het pods and het hypos, and they were all fake, every one of them. And at that point, I almost quit. You know, before I ever even got started, I was $17,000 in the hole, and I just, you know, I'm like, how can someone do that? You know, like, how can you take, you know, how does someone sleep at night when they do that? So, but I didn't. I kept going, and you know, we're here now, and you know, I'm glad I didn't quit. I really am. So it's been a good road. It's been a long road and a hard road. Any advice I could tell you to do: stay away from the rumor mill. If you get caught up in the rumor mill, you've lost the battle.
Yeah.
If you sit, you know, If you sit and worry about what everyone else is doing, then you're never going to do anything. You've got to focus on you and what's in front of you and what you can do, because you can't control what everybody else is doing. You can only control what you're doing. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a hard, long road. But just, if you're cut out for it, just maybe you'll wake up one day and you'll be where you want to be.
And there are a lot of rewards along the way too. I find working with animals to be highly rewarding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Almost therapeutic. Yeah. It's very, very fun. It's very rewarding. You will get those tough times when you have incubator problems or you don't get the odds, or, you will have that, but you'll learn you have to take those bumps and licks to be better.
Right.
To become better. And then, eventually, you get to that point to where you're unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't matter what rumors or what anyone says or what happens. You always have that backup plan, and you always rise to the top.
So what are your thoughts on, I know you're like super heavy into scaleless. What about the micro scale? What do you think about all that stuff?
Well, the last time I spoke out about microscale, I apparently ruffled some feathers, and there was a lot of people, and I wouldn't say a lot of people, there was a few individuals that were not very happy. So, I can't speak about the microscale. I'm not going to speak about the microscale because I'm not about controversy and drama. And, with all the Scaleless head mutations and everything out there, I don't see any reason to work with microscale. It's not even been I don't think it's even really been proven viable. I know Kevin bought those too, but I mean, if there's any question there, why would you not go with the line that's already proven if it is a separate? I mean, each to their own. Each to their own. I'll leave that one. I'll lay that one down so I don't start a big storm.
All right. I can respect that. So you started your YouTube channel, maybe a year ago?
Yeah, it's been slow. I've struggled to get videos out just because of time. Running the rodent building and then the other businesses we have, and then keeping up with the animals. It's tough. And I found myself recently, I'd at least like to have a little bit of time to myself with my kids and, my mom. We don't have a lot of family, so, I try to take a little bit of time out for them and a little bit for myself. But, there for a while, I was 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
For probably 4 years straight. I missed a lot of time with my kids, and so I'm trying to spend a little, trying to make up a little bit for lost time. But to do this business and be successful at it, you have to stay at it 12, 14 hours a day. You can't let up. The second you let up off the gas pedal, you're just further and further behind.
Well,
that's what I say. It takes a certain type of individual to be able to do this and be successful at it.
It truly does. And people have no idea that a lot of times the videos that are coming out at, 3 o'clock in the afternoon were filmed at 3 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, that I've come home from work, we worked out cleaning animals until 12, and then we came back inside, everybody ate dinner while I changed clothes and got dressed to go film, and we filmed 7 videos, and there are days when it's just hard to do it. There are, but my goal for my channel is, number one, spreading positivity and support among the community, and sharing information and sharing a love for animals. You know, people just don't know that reptiles aren't scary, ugly, mean, bad, evil, whatever. And when people
Right.
can see them on a video and see, wow, that's actually a really beautiful animal, or wow, you know, I didn't know that there were purple tarantulas. I'm not going to kill a spider the next time I see it, or wow, you know, I didn't know that, you know, you could ever hold a lizard. I mean, it's just things that haven't occurred to people that just haven't had the exposure. And also being female, you know, I have a bit of a different platform that, number one, sometimes people will watch just because I'm a woman holding an animal, but also there are a lot of girls and women out there that have said, you know what, I didn't really think that this was a world for women, and seeing you do it has taught me otherwise. And
Right.
obviously, I'm all about equal opportunity and women doing what they want to do. And so, what's the goal of your channel, would you say?
Well, you know, if I had more subscribers, I would definitely put more of an effort into it. But like you said, it takes me a full day to do a video. It takes
Right.
a full entire day from the time you get up, you film, editing. It takes a full day to do a video. If I had, you know, I put things out there that I feel like need to be addressed, very critical things right now.
Right.
Um, but, you know, as far as a vlog, a weekly vlog or something, you know, if I had, you know, I know you have to put in the work and make those videos to get those subscribers. Um, but I just don't have the time to dedicate solely weekly right now to doing videos every week. So I'm just doing what I can until I can get the channel somewhat a decent amount of subscribers, and then I will really dive in and start making it a weekly vlog. Um, and so it's really just a time thing for me. As time goes on and more people come in and subscribe to the channel, you know, we will make it um, more of a channel and not just whenever we get a video out.
Right.
So especially during hatch season, you know, stuff like that, we would definitely like to do more of that stuff, showing people more of what's hatching here, a lot of stuff that's going on here, um, and you know, show people a little more about what we do on a daily basis.
Well, and obviously that's going to grow your business because people feel a kinship with you. They feel like they've got to know you. If they're seeing your
Right.
animals breeding, if they're seeing those eggs, I mean, a lot of people, even if it's a tarantula egg sac forming, people will say, as soon as I do a spider pairing, as soon as I pull an egg sac, they say, I want some of those babies. And I tell them, I don't have any babies.
Yeah.
We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. I tell them I don't count my animals before they hatch, you know. And when
Right.
I pulled that big retic nest, people were saying, "Oh, can I pre-order? Can I do this?" And I'm like, "Guys, I don't have any retics yet. You know, I mean, 90 days.
Right.
It's going to be 90 days before I know whether or not I even have any, you know, viable babies." And so people really get psyched about going on the journey with you. And obviously it drives business. A lot of times I pre-sell, or people become interested in an animal before it's, you know, literally conceived or born or hatched or whatever. So it definitely makes it easier to, you know, to move your product for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's like I said, I think it's definitely key to the success of any business. Social is king, which was my argument about the forums. Coming back, I think that I think social is king. You know, we see all these apps. Well, what's the new one? MeWe. That's that everybody's jumping on. They get like 100 invites a day to. I don't see any other platform that is going to come in and take over Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I just don't see it. I
Right.
don't see it, and that's what I mean by the entrepreneurship. There's guys out there every day. There's millions of people sitting out there trying to develop the next Instagram, the next Facebook. And, that for them is a losing battle. There's no computer that's going to design reptiles that's going to produce those animals. And with social media at the palm of your hand, there's nothing but up. I mean, the potential is out of this world. I think it's greater than any other industry out there, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. And we have yet to see so many different combinations that have not even, been created yet. So we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I agree.
We really do. We have a long way to go. I don't think we won't see all the combinations and stuff in our lifetime, a lot less than next.
Right, I agree. That's probably true.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll ask you one more question. It's already past 6, or my time. It's been 2 hours. What's your favorite snake that you have in your collection? Or if you can't choose, your couple top favorites?
Oh, I love my ultramel stuff. My ultramel stuff is out of this world. So that when I hit the black pastel, I think it was black pastel yellow belly ultra glow, when it come out, it was solid red. That original male that I hatched years and years ago, I just can't replace him. Also, the lemon blast Scaleless. I still think that's one of the best combos to date. The cinnamon that I just hatched was incredible. But the lemon blast Scaleless, that female is probably 1,200 grams now, and that's one of those that'll never leave my collection.
How do you grow your babies up so fast? How often do you feed them?
Well, the lemon blast Scaleless, she's almost 20 months old. So, but we feed. We try to feed twice a week. Adults only get fed once a week, but babies, we try to feed them twice a week if possible. And that's a lot of diligence that takes in to to be there every Monday and Thursday, to make sure they get fed. But other than that, it's probably going to go down to your Scaleless Ultramel and the Super Vanilla Pod was amazing this year. That one was another incredible one.
I just saw that one. That was crazy beautiful. Is that one you're keeping?
Yes, she's staying here. I think that was probably one of the best pod combos for 2018. But I think that one was really nice. But I'm very partial to Ultramel and Scaleless. Both of those are my dad was with me in 2009 when I bought my Ultramel male that founded all my stock. And that was the last animal that we purchased together before he passed away. So that whole project's very, very close to me in general. But Ultramel and Scaleless all the way. I think those are the two most underrated projects out there, period. The sky is the limit with those. I think they're so underrated.
I promised you no more. What do you think about the sunset, Gene? Are you all bananas over it like a bunch of people are?
I think the sunset has its place. I think the people that have had the sunset have went the wrong direction with it. I think that goes back to that designer. Okay? Yeah. I know two things that I could do with it that I would guarantee, or pretty much guarantee, would be incredible. I know it would be incredible. But I'm not. Will I work with it? Probably, to go those two different directions that I thought about. But I think that and that's another thing. When you invest heavily into a big project, you really need to look at who's running the project and who has the project, because that determines a lot of the success of the project.
That's true. That's definitely true.
But am I gung-ho over Sunset? No. Is there going to be a few mutations out there that are going to be absolutely mind-blowing? Yes. Yes. There's going to be a couple that are just going to be out of this world. But for the most part, am I bananas over it? I think it has a ton of potential. I really do. And I think guys that mainstream that project and will do really well with it. But they're going to have to be dedicated, and they're going to have to go to, that designer level and really focus and vision what they're doing. But up to this date, I have not seen anything that has really blown me away. I think that everyone that has had the project has took it the wrong direction.
Interesting.
Just my opinion. And if one thing about me is I don't sugarcoat anything, and I don't have a filter. So, I get a lot of flack over that throughout the years, because I cut it. A lot of people will say something, just to make a sale. They'll tell the customer anything they want to hear. I'm not like that. That's not what my business was built on. I will tell you the truth, even if it costs me a sale, or even if it's something that you didn't want to hear. That's just how I've always been. You ask for my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear just to make a sale. So,
well, I feel like that's a good practice, because ultimately I feel like it's better to lose a customer than to have a dissatisfied customer that then has an animal that they don't want or maybe can't care for. So I'm with you 100% there.
Right.
And
completely transparent.
Yeah, our products being a living animal, I feel like kind of adds an element of morality that you have to consider also too, anytime you're making a business transaction.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's what I say. There's so much that goes into this business. Customer service. You gotta know how to ship. Your policies, your marketing, your logo, your social media, your breeding, your rodents. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this that I think a lot of people don't realize. And it's, it's easy for the little guy to sit on Facebook and tear us down. And it hurts. It doesn't hurt so much that they're trashing you. It's just that you do all this work, and you work 12 and 14 hours a day, and put everything you got into something for someone to take 5 seconds to just make a negative comment, and it's like, it's terrible. It's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling. But you just have to ignore those comments and keep going.
Way that Germans keep tarantulas is quite a bit different than we do here in the US. And a lot of German viewers are highly critical of my enclosures and substrate and things like that. And if they want to say, hey, I think you should have a deeper substrate or this or that, that's fine with me. If you're just gonna, be ranting and ridiculous, I'm just gonna delete your, especially like racial slurs and sexist comments, just trying to tear me down for whatever reason. I just don't allow it. So you just have to disregard them and move on for the most part.
Yes, you do. And that's, like I said, I ignored a lot of stuff, and I don't engage with a lot, Sometimes, some days it gets to be too much, some days you just can't ignore it. But as long as your heart's in the right place and you're in the right direction, then that's all that matters.
That's true. And, in most circumstances, I just don't address it at all. There have been a few times when I've made like a rebuttal video to like a few people, and it was nothing crazy. One of them was actually a joke video, there was a whole forum group that group, the founding members or the primary members, a new person asked a question about me, and I mean, that thread went crazy with people talking trash about me. And some of it was, she's stupid, she doesn't know what she's doing, blah blah blah, she's the worst keeper ever, she's this, she's that. And some of it was just off the rails ridiculous, about how I should just do porn and I'm a dumb bitch, and like totally ridiculous. And the moderator actually disabled that forum, that thread, because it just was going on and on and on. And so I did a rebuttal. I did a joke video, the 10 commandments of keeping tarantulas according to me. Because like 3 or 4 of them said, people think she's a god. And they kept saying all this stuff about, that there were like 3 or 4 references to me being a god. So I made the 10 commandments of tarantula keeping according to me. And so it was funny, I was kind of making fun of them and kind of making fun of me. I never claimed to be a god. I don't know who said that, but it was funny. So I mean, yeah. We had like holy music coming down, and it was funny.
I get the same thing over the whole Superman controversy. I get it too, but you just gotta. You just got to ignore that, because a friend of mine told me a long time ago, very early in this business, there was a couple rumors going around, and he said, "You know what, Daniel?" He said, "If people are not talking about you, you're not doing something right." True. So I just take it as, the more I hear, the more rumors I hear, the more I keep pushing harder and harder. So I call it fuel for the gas tank.
Yeah, that's true. One person was really upset when they read all of the stuff. And I said, here's the thing, though. Think about this. Not a single person out of the hundreds of people that jumped on there said, who is that? Who are you guys talking about? Every single one knew who I am, that I'm a breeder. They were remarking on videos I'd made or things that I'd done. So, I mean, they're here watching. And so those are views. What am I going to say? You know? And if my goal is to make a mark in the industry and to spread, information that I have, and these people are receiving it, whatever, more power to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely look, and that all comes with the YouTube thing, putting yourself out there. People are gonna hate on you regardless of what you do, even if you did everything perfect.
Right.
I remember the day Justin did that video and like barely tossed a pup, and everybody went crazier, but it's just part of it. It's part of putting your face out there. It's part of being in the limelight, and you're just gonna have that. You get those bogus emails and all the slander and everything, but that just to me, that just tells me that you're doing something right, and you just keep doing what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I
Jealousy
agree.
is a terrible thing.
And for the most part, I think that's, the drive of a lot of these people who are just making these, remarks. And other viewers a lot of times will come to my defense and say, oh, you're just jealous because, she's successful, or she's, well known, or she's rich, which, yeah, if only that were true.
Right. Right.
But
it's one of my favorite sayings. Jealousy is a terrible thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. So obviously I'm going to link all of your stuff, but just give us a quick rundown on how people could find you on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Constriction Addiction. You have constrictionaddiction.com. You have Constriction Addiction on Facebook, Constriction Addiction on Instagram, and Constriction Addiction on YouTube. Also, there's my personal Facebook, which is Daniel Allison. But Constriction Addiction on any platform, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you should be able to find me. No problem.
And obviously, so do you have a website too, or do you just sell off a Morph Market?
No, website too. It's www.constrictionaddiction.com.
Gee, that's hard to remember. And then you do also have a store on Morph Market, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Lehman's the man. I did a video with him too, and he is, I mean, to me, what he's done has been one of the most important things. And just awesome.
Huge.
We love you, John. You're incredible.
Huge, very huge. I mean, what John did, with Morph Market, that was huge for us. Absolutely.
Oh, one more thing. So, ReptiChip, are you like a distributor, or are you affiliated, or what's the deal with that?
I was with ReptiChip through the beginning, probably up until about 6 months ago.
Okay.
It goes back to that time thing.
Yeah.
I just with all my other businesses, and then running a snake business, and then we started up the rodents. ReptiChip was the first thing to fall by the wayside, and I just couldn't give JT and those guys, the time that they needed for this. So I just kind of tapped out and, decided to not do that anymore. It was, it wasn't fair to me or him to keep dragging that out. So I decided to take a step back from that. So no, I'm no longer affiliated with ReptiChip East.
Okay.
But definitely, you can contact JT or any of those guys, and they'll get you set up on ReptiChip.
And you still use it, and you still, like the product and everything?
I like the product. I'm no longer using the product. I'm using a competitive product at the moment.
Okay.
I'm actually using Pro Coco at the moment.
Okay.
I like it. I haven't.
I didn't mean to put you on a spot.
I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm just trying not to ruffle any feathers. I'll say I'm using Pro Coco at the moment.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll say that.
There we go.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of great things about ReptiChip. I haven't used it yet. I've actually tried to contact JT a couple of times, but I know that he's really swamped as well. So anyway, thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible. For any of you, let's see, Steve Dingman's here, Terry Davis is here, Sean Mills is here, Reggie Urban's Jungle is still here, Jack Frost. Thank you to you guys who stayed on till the end. You guys are awesome. I love that you guys can visit with each other and shoot your questions out there if you want to. So this was Daniel Ellison. I'm going to be linking his YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and web address. So obviously he has some very exciting things coming up. Make sure to be checking out his videos and his posts to see what he's got going. Awesome dude. Some people think he looks like Superman. I don't know.
It was when I was wearing the glasses. When I had the glasses, there was no mistaking it. But through the summertime, I wear contacts, so it changes a little bit. But,
awesome.
It was fun. It was fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving up your evening for us, and best of luck to you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's keep in touch. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.